Listen, I did get a question this week for a Q&A session. I don't have a tremendous amount of time to address it this week, but I do just I want to read it off and we can talk a little bit about this. The question was, how can we handle family conflict when there's no compromise and animosity on many topics? This is a good one right now, right? Because politics are thick right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world that are that can cause difficulty within families. So I want to, for this person, whoever you are, I want to take this back to the idea framework, and I want to give you a quick hit on one of the ways you can start to deal with it. Now, dealing with family is, for obvious reasons, a lifetime pursuit. You're not going to solve it all at one go. But let me give you a little bit of how the idea framework can help you. Number one, your identity. When you're dealing with family members, when there is difficulty or there is animosity, the number one thing that you can do is be rooted in who you are. Okay? So that means you've got to figure out who you are. You've got to be secure in who you are. And you have to make sure that you're not reacting, right? Because when things get intense, when people get into these fights in the family, people often lose themselves in the fight. And so they react emotionally and they start to get defensive, right? They defend their positions and then they get caught up in proving their point. But here's what I would like for you, right? If you are secure in your identity, instead of trying to control that other person's behavior or instead of going in to try and change their mind, then I want you to focus on who you want to be in that situation. And I want you to pre-decide, right? That means decide beforehand, commit to yourself beforehand how you will engage. Do you want to be somebody who fuels the fire, or do you want to be someone who creates a stable place for actual conversation, right? This doesn't mean being a pusher. I'm not talking about being a pushover, right? What it means is choosing your responses instead of reacting instinctively. So just ask yourself a simple question. Am I showing up the way that reflects my values? Or am I just mirroring the behavior of this person who is antagonistic towards me? So the first thing is identity, right? Identity based. Number two, disciplines. Choose what you can control, okay? You cannot control how other people feel. You cannot control what other people say. You cannot control how other people perceive you, but here's what you can control. You can control how you listen. So instead of just planning out whatever your counterpoint, your next argument is going to be, practice like really listening. And we say active listening, and that's a big buzzword, but practice really listening. Because when people feel heard, they soften up real fast, even if they don't agree. I see this in business all the time. When people are in that room and they're arguing about the solution and the leader listens to them, when they really listen to them, there's a difference, right? There's a difference in the way that person comes off. So, how you listen is important, how you set the tone, because if you engage with hostility, then it's going to escalate. So, if you come in here, they're going to come in here. If you come in here, they're going to come in here. It's going to, if you stay calm, if you maintain calm, it's going to disrupt this cycle. And if you are firm in your identity, you will have the ability to maintain calm. And then how you engage or don't engage, right? Some conversations may need healthy disengagement, quite frankly. It may be a time where you don't have to fight every single battle. You choose where your energy is best spent, because I talked about it earlier. Energy is one of your most precious resources. Yeah, don't engage in negativity. Exactly, Head of Steel. You got it. Seek to understand, not to win. Old phrase, but it's true, right? I think Saint Francis of Assisi, I think, was the one who said, "Seek first to understand, and then to be understood." But I'm going to change it a little bit to seek to understand, not to win, because even if you never agree with somebody, you can change the dynamic. You can shift that whole dynamic by validating people's emotions without validating the argument, right? Oh, I can see why that's frustrating for you. That's validating an emotion instead of going, "Oh yeah, you're right." Right? That would be validating their argument. You do not have to validate people's arguments, but you do have to make them feel seen. How can you do that? How can you be the more elevated person? Right. Number three, execution. We talked about identity and discipline. Let's talk about execution. Set boundaries. And y'all know I hate the word boundaries. Set boundaries without framing them as boundaries, right? This is about defining your role in conflict. It's not about just saying arbitrary, well, I'm not going there because that's my boundary and you're violating my boundary and we're not going to talk about that, right? No, that's BS. Don't have boundaries like that. Boundaries like that are dumb. Boundaries like that are weak, right? Have strong boundaries instead, right? If there's no room for from compromise, then you shift your goal. You shift your goal from resolution to navigation. So you ask yourself, what specifically do I need to protect? Is it my peace? Is it my kids? Is it my time? I'll be honest with you, when we're setting boundaries in the traditional sense, usually what we're trying to protect is just our sense of, being right. You don't have to protect that. If you're right, you're right. And if you're not right, you're not right. How do I create that environment where I'm not constantly just reacting to negativity? Execution is all about deciding in advance how you're going to respond when certain topics come up. Might be redirecting those conversations, right? We talked about that. It might be shutting them down gracefully or excusing yourself, like just taking a step outside. But not engaging in every fight is not the same as not losing. It's not the same as losing. Sorry. Listen to me. Listen to me. Hear me. Not engaging in a fight is not the same thing as losing, okay? It's okay. You don't have to fight every fight. If you know you're right, be right. Some people aren't going to get convinced, and that's okay. And then accountability, right? Own your role in the conflict. It's easy to see what the other person is doing wrong, but the harder question is, am I playing into the cycle in ways I don't realize? So it's not about taking responsibility, right? It's not about taking responsibility for other people's actions, but it means recognizing if you're engaging in repetitive, unproductive arguments. If you're having the same argument again and again and again, please stop. It will not help you. It will not help them. If you're assuming bad intent, which we come in doing a lot of times, right? If we're assuming bad intent instead of allowing for complexity and nuance, we're causing a problem. We're part of the problem. If we're falling into patterns of reaction instead of acting intentionally, we're causing the problem. We're part of the problem. So you have to decide what healthy disengagement looks like. Not every relationship could be fixed, but most can be managed, right? In a way where there's peace, that's protected for you, that still allows connection when possible. And that's the most important thing is connection. So to whoever asked this question, that's a lot, right? I hope some of it helps. Just know if compromise is not an option, then the goal isn't agreement. So stop looking for it, right? The goal is peaceful coexistence. You may never agree, but that does not mean that you have to live in constant conflict. Instead of seeing a resolution as they need to change. Well, if they don't change, then it's over. If they don't change, then they can forget about it, right? Instead of seeing that shift to focus, shift the focus to how you want to show up, who you want to be, and what will allow you to engage without being caught in the storm of just emotions and stuff that comes into those fights. Okay.